Shalom, everybody. How you doing? Welcome to another installment of Israel 365, learning Hebrew through the book of Genesis. Glad you're here with us today. Very happy that you've decided to join yet another class. I know that many of you are regulars, and I appreciate that. And often we have people who are coming on board, trying out the class and seeing what it's like. So whatever category you fall in, I'm grateful that you're here. And so let's get learning. Let's start and see what's happening. So this is for Wednesday, December the 23rd, and the year 2020. We're not too far away from a brand new year, and that's very, very exciting. So let's take a look at our sheet that we have each and every week. And the first discussion we're going to have is about Genesis 44:18. This is at the very, very beginning of the portion of Vayigash. Vayigash. And it says there, 44:18, this is right after the brothers of Joseph who have come to Egypt in order to get food because there's a famine everywhere else except for Egypt because of the great work that Joseph did in planning for the famine. During the 7 years of plenty, he did all kinds of things that made food accessible, put stuff in storehouses that there should be food. And Jacob, the forefather, sends all of his sons to get food, and they get caught up in a whole to-do with their brother Joseph. They don't know he's their brother, but he knows they are his brothers. So now, the beginning of the portion of Vayigash is where, at the end of last week's Torah portion, Joseph has now gotten some of the brothers in trouble, and this was all a ruse to be able to get his brother Benjamin to Egypt and to have some kind of a hopeful reconciliation with his brothers who wanted to kill him, if you remember this. Anyway, Genesis 44:18. Then Judah approached him and said, "Please, my lord, let now your servant speak something into my lord's ears, and let not your wrath be kindled against your servant, for you are like the Pharaoh." Here, the brother Judah is ready to make a plea. Please, please, don't keep us here. Don't put us in jail because of what you think we did. We need to bring our younger Benjamin back to his father Jacob, because if we don't do that, then Jacob he's gonna die. He's already lost one son. They don't know it's him, Joseph, and he hasn't lost him because he's still alive, but they convinced their father that he's dead. And now the thought of another son dying or being imprisoned, not coming back to Jacob, is going to kill him. That's basically the message. So here is Judah saying he is approaching Joseph, who is just like the Pharaoh. I mean, that's exactly what he says. He's almost like the Pharaoh. So this is the word in Hebrew, the first box, Vayigash, Vayigash, which literally means to approach. Lahagish, Lahagish means to approach people, to serve them, to present them with something. Lahagish. You go to a restaurant, and what do the waiters do? They give you a menu. They lahagish a menu. They present it. And they will serve you. They come with your favorite dishes that you've ordered, and they are lahagish, all of these different dishes that you've asked for. The word magash, magash, is Hebrew for a word tray. And a tray is something you use upon which you present food. The tray, a magash, all coming from the word vayigash, lahagish, to serve, to present. What I wanted to make an observation about the word vayigash is that it's not just approaching somebody, but it's approaching somebody. The word vayigash carries with it the idea of a sense of awe or a sense of fear or trepidation, that kind of a thing. You go to somebody is one thing. You approach somebody, there's a certain hesitancy in the approach. You don't know how it's going to go. I'll give you a good example. I think it's a good example anyway. One of the rabbis that served the congregation where I was for 7.5 beautiful years in Baltimore, Maryland, he was the rabbi, could have been the founding rabbi of that congregation. He was there for like 50 years. 50 years. So when I got to the congregation about 15 years after he passed away, after being the rabbi, etc., for about 50 years, when people discussed that rabbi and how they spoke with him, if they had an idea to bounce it off the rabbi, every person to the person would say, and then we approached Rabbi, let's call him Rabbi Schwartz. That was not his name. And then we approached Rabbi Schwartz. Now, what does that mean? That means that this rabbi was very revered, very respected. You didn't just go to him and say, what do you like? Do you like peppermint or spearmint? No, he was educated, knowledgeable, had a doctorate, I think. Very, very intellectual, intelligent, wise. No, you didn't go to Rabbi Schwartz, you approached him. And that is the idea of the word Vayigash. Judah is ready to put everything on the line in speaking to Joseph, the second in command in Egypt. He's got to say the right words with the right intonation. He's got to tug on the right heartstrings of Joseph, his brother. He doesn't know that this is Joseph, his brother. And that's, I believe, why the word in the Torah used, why God used this word, Vayigash. Awe, trepidation, fear, hesitancy. I'm putting it all on the line here. I'm not just going to Joseph, I am approaching him. And that's much more emotional than just going to somebody. Okay, so let's take a look at the next one. Genesis 45:13. This is when Joseph has already revealed who he is to his brothers. And his bottom question is my father still alive? And when he finds out that, yes, he's still alive, thank God, he says, Genesis 45:13, says to his brothers, and you shall tell my father of all my honor in Egypt. In other words, tell my father what I've become in Egypt. You know, I left as a lad of about 17 years or so, and here I am at the age of 30 or so, and tell him what I became. This is amazing, an amazing rise to power. Tell him all that you have seen, and you shall hasten and bring my father down here. Hurry up. I haven't seen him in about 20 years. I want to see him. I'm going to guess he wants to see me once he knows that I'm alive. Quickly, brothers, let's make this happen. Let's move this thing forward in order to do that. But he says to the brothers, please tell him of the honor that I have achieved in the land of Israel. And that honor is significant and majorly considerable honor that he has achieved. So the Hebrew word in that box is the word kivodi, kivodi, my honor. Tell my father about my honor that I have achieved here in the land of Egypt, the way people honor me, the position I've achieved, the prestige, the honor that I have among the people. Tell him about it, and that will make him feel like whatever age he is going to come down and see all of this. You know, a sense of pride, what his son has become. This is incredible, unbelievable. So the word is kivodi, my honor. The word kavod, you'll see that in the English letters, kavod. Kavod literally means honor, kavod. Kaved. Kaved is a word also meaning honor. It's to honor, kaved or kabed. And the word is a very interesting word because not just meaning honor. And I have to say this, that in the Jewish community, when we see the word COVID, many people recognize that it sounds very similar to kavod. Kavod, honor. And there were many, many great leaders in the Jewish community in these last several months have posed the proposition that maybe this entire COVID has come to us because we have not given enough kavod to the Almighty for all that he has done, that we have started taking him for granted, and this was God's way of getting our attention to reinstitute the kind of kavod, COVID, that we should be bringing him. That's not the final word on it. It's just what a lot of Jewish rabbis and other leaders are saying because of the similarity between COVID and kavod, honor, interestingly enough. So, this is what he says. Tell my father of the honor, the prestige I have achieved here in Egypt. Now, the word kavod and kaved are very related. Kaved also means heavy, weighty. So when the Torah says, kaved et avicha v'yatimecha, honor your mother and your father, honor your father and your mother, we can almost see the word kaved, heavy, in the sense that it is a very heavy obligation. And the harder it is to honor your parents, the heavier the obligation is. It's a weighty obligation to honor our father and our mother, to honor our parents, and it can get much harder in certain cases. When our parents are not as lucid as they used to be, when they're not as patient as they used to be, when they're more kvetchy, it's a nice Yiddish term, more kvetchy and irritable than they used to be, it's not that easy to honor kavod. And that honor can be kaved. It can be very, very weighty and very heavy, meaning it gets harder and harder to give them that kind of honor, because we become often very impatient when they don't hear and they don't have the same way they used to, and they whine and they complain, for those that do that. There was one Talmudic sage, a sage in the Talmud, who said, as a quote from the Talmud, he is very grateful that by the time he was, I think, an infant, 5, 6 years old, something like that, he was very grateful that his parents were no longer alive. And when people said to him, why do you feel that way? What kind of a feeling is that? So you know that he felt terrible about not having parents at that age, that young, tender age, to already be an orphan. But he came from a spiritual perspective. He said, of course I'm sorry that I don't have them, but it spares me the need to honor them because I know I would fail each and every time. He was sure that he would fall woefully short of honoring his parents in the way that God, through the Torah, would want people to honor their parents. He knew that the best he could do would probably fall short. That was his feeling. Anyway, again, kavod, kaved. Kavod, honor, to give honor to parents, to give honor to our teachers, honor to our rabbis, our priests, our imams, whoever it is, to give honor to the people that deserve honor. But sometimes that kavod can be kaved. It can be heavy and weighty and significant and not always easy to accord the kind of honor due to people. Take a look, please, at the third notation, Genesis 45:14. This is a beautiful reunion between Joseph and his blood brother, Benjamin. They are the only two children born of their mother, Rachel. She gave birth to Joseph and gave birth to Benjamin, and Benjamin is the youngest of all the brothers here. So what does he do? 45:14. He fell on his brother Benjamin's neck, and he wept. And Benjamin wept on his neck. So this reminds me of the great city in New York called Great Neck. This is all about great necks, okay? Joseph is crying on Benjamin's neck, and Benjamin is crying on Joseph's neck. So the word in Hebrew, tzavare and tzavarav. Tzavare would be a way of saying he wept on his neck. Tzavar is a neck. And the other one, tzavarav, he wept on his neck. Tzavar, neck. This is a person's tzavar. It's that simple. It's a little two-syllable word in Hebrew, tzavar. I have to tell you, I'm not sure what the root of it is, but the word for neck is tzavar. Now, here is one of several times that we're going to learn between this week and next week that the Torah says something that's kind of superficial, and then our Hasidic masters have found something so deep and so moving and so inspiring that they went from the superficial or the simple to something a lot more pungent, a lot more beautiful. So, for example, Tzavaret, they wept on each other's neck. And the commentaries are going to say to us, there's something more going on here than just two brothers weeping on each other's necks. One commentator says, you know why they're weeping? Beyond the fact that they haven't seen each other for all these many years and they're blood brothers and they've been separated and it's a beautiful reunion. Yeah, on a superficial level, we get that. That's why they're weeping. One commentator says, no, they're weeping because they know they have certain prophecies, Joseph and Benjamin. They're weeping because they know that now it's good. Now it's good. But knowing Jewish history and having a sense of prophecy, what's coming up, they know it's not going to be good all the time. So they are weeping over the fact that it's not always going to be good. They're weeping for the exiles to come, the exiles of the Jewish people. They're weeping for what's going to happen in Jewish history repeatedly to the Jewish people, their ancestors, their progenitors. They are weeping for what people after them are going to have to deal with and go through. Here's a very deep comment. I think it's from Rashi, the great French commentator from about 950 years ago. This commentator, if I correct with Rashi, it says that they wept for the destruction of the tabernacle and the temples. What does that mean? It means that when Joseph was weeping on the neck of Benjamin, he wept for what eventually would become the destruction of the first holy temple in the year 585 before the Common Era. And that temple was in the tribal area of Benjamin. So he weeps on Benjamin's neck because that destruction will take place in Benjamin's geographical area. And Benjamin is crying on the neck of Joseph because the tabernacle at Shiloh, which was there for about 369 years before the temple was built in Jerusalem. So Benjamin is crying on Joseph's neck because of the destruction of the tabernacle in Shiloh, which is in the portion of Joseph's son Ephraim. How do you like that? So it's not just a simple weepy reunion. They are crying because of what they see, the destructions of what they see in each other's tribal geographical area in the future. It also says, one of the commentaries says, it's also the Zohar. This is the main mystical work of the Jewish people. They wept for their brothers because they foresaw that in the future of Jewish history, that 10 of the 12 tribes are going to be exiled and scattered among the nations. So this is very interesting to me, where there are commentaries, Hasidic commentaries and other lofty mystical commentaries, who like to say to us that whatever the Torah describes can be described and understood and perceived on so many levels. One is a simple level. Yeah, two brothers are crying, reunion, happy, joyous, tearful. What do you expect? It's lovely. It's a beautiful moment. It's a moment in time. Picture. And then there are the commentaries that say that it's got to be deeper than that. If it enters the Torah, the God-given Torah, it's got to be deeper than that. And we see that it is, according to many of these commentaries. Interestingly enough, how there's a lot of lofty matters that we're going to see more of this week and next week. But it's amazing how much happens around the neck. The tsavar in Hebrew. How much happens around the neck. Esau and Jacob, a few Torah portions ago, they also cry on each other's neck. That's what the Torah says. And now Benjamin and Joseph are also crying on each other's neck, each other's tsavar. And pretty soon we're going to see the Jacob and Joseph reunion, father and son. And they cry on each other's necks. So, yeah, a lot of neck action going on. And it's just interesting to note it. I'll be honest, I don't know what it all means, but maybe we'll see what comes next. Okay, that's the Hebrew word tsavar. How do you like that? The next one is Genesis 45:27. Genesis 45:27. So now Jacob has now been told about Joseph's words that he had said to them. He saw the wagons that Joseph had sent to him, and the spirit of their father Jacob was revived. Wow. So Joseph sends wagons. He sends wagons for his father. And the Hebrew word is agalot, ha-agalot. He sent him the wagons. Agalah means a wagon. Egel means a calf, C-A-L-F. Eglah is also another word for a calf or a heifer, H-E-I-F-E-R, a calf or a heifer. There was also a leader from the book of the prophets who was the king of Moab. His name was Eglon, Agalah. Not sure what that connection is, but they sound exactly the same. Eglon, Agalah. So, what's happening here with the wagons? He saw the wagons that Joseph, his son, sent to him. What's that got to do with heifers or calves or calves? Anyway, it doesn't say that the Pharaoh sent these wagons, but it's that Joseph sent these wagons. So what's going on deeper than here comes some wagons from his son Joseph? This is what the commentaries say. They say that this was an allusion. Joseph sending these wagons to his father was not just a practical thing to send all these things, to send the father wagons and he can load the wagons and bring them to Egypt so they can have a beautiful reunion. If it's in the Torah, there's got to be something deeper going on. And the commentaries say this is an allusion to the last topic that they studied together before Joseph left to search for his brothers several Torah portions ago. They were studying a topic called the Eglah, Agalah, wagon, Eglah, heifer. They were studying the part of the Torah that speaks about the Eglah Arufa, the decapitated heifer, the decapitated calf. Thank you for not asking what's that all about. We'll get to it when we get to it. What's the story? Somebody is found in the outskirts of two cities. The sages of both cities come and they measure how far is that city from where the person is. Bottom line, they don't know who murdered this person, and they all feel terrible about it. At the same time, they all feel terrible because maybe the person should not have been so vulnerable as to have left their city without any kind of an escort. And maybe that's why he died, because he was too vulnerable. People saw him. They did whatever they did to him because he was not with anybody else. And the people of the town feel terrible at what happened. So what is the remedy for this? There's a whole ritual that goes with this. They have to take a calf and break its neck. Eglah arufa, broken. Eglah, a calf, break its neck. Here comes the neck again. How do you like that? And they do that in expiation of this unsolved murder. So why does Joseph send the agalot, literally the wagons? He sends them as a signal to his father that he still remembers the last thing they studied together 20 years ago, What was that thing? What was that topic? The topic of the eglah, agalot, agala, wagon, eglah, calf. I still remember what you taught me 20 years ago. That was the very last lesson we had before I parted, and who could have guessed it would have been for the next 20 years. The rabbis, by the way, tell us from this story that when friends get together and they depart, it's time to go. I got to go. You got to go. We have a meeting, blah, blah, blah. It's very, very meritorious to depart with a Torah thought. Just a Torah thought, so that the meeting was not only good for the friendship, the camaraderie, the food, just the time spent together, but it also had the spiritual value of sharing a Torah thought, a godly thought. And I think that's relevant for any religion, whatever religion you are. When you part from somebody of that religion, whatever, to share a godly spiritual thought, a message about something as a way of remembering each other, not only for the good times, but also for the great lesson that was enjoyed and shared and maybe even implemented in each person's life. Okay, we're looking at the second to the bottom notation, Genesis 46:17. It says, and the sons of Asher were Imnah, Ishva, Ishvi, a little repetitious there, and Bria, and Serach, in Hebrew, Serach, their sister. And the sons of Bria were Heber and Malkiel. Now, something very, very important that the average Jew does not know, because this is in the Midrash, rabbinical commentary on episodes that we see in the Torah, meaning let's get deeper than what's going on. We find that again and again. Genesis 46:17. This is way after Joseph already has made it known to his father that he's alive, etc. So 46:17, you see that it's about a chapter later in the Torah. It mentions the son of Asher and his daughter, whose name was Serach. That's her name, Serach. And that's what it says in the Hebrew, Serach, and Serach, his daughter. She's the daughter of Asher. Serach is mentioned 3 times in the Jewish Bible. This is one of the 3 times. And why did I highlight her word or her name, Serach? She has a very, very special place in this entire story, although it's not written outright in the Torah. This is a midrash. This is rabbinic commentary on episodes that occur in the Torah. Background, if you will. You have to look at the playbill to see who the actors are. So she is credited with setting the mood and the atmosphere to tell Jacob that Joseph is still alive. Remember, Jacob is getting older, okay? And he thinks that his son is dead for the past 20 years. So now let's have the sons march in to elderly Jacob and say, hey, guess what, Dad? Joseph is alive. What would you expect from Jacob? How about an ambulance outside the tent? Because this could kill him. How do you deliver such a message carefully? God forbid you have to tell people that they're sick, they're ill, they're older. The advice is don't tell them when they're alone. Let them know, let their doctor know, but you're sitting there. They shouldn't take that kind of news alone. So what are they going to tell their father Jacob? Hey, guess what? Joseph is still alive. And risk what kind of health hazard for their father Jacob? So where does Serach come in? Serach plays the harp. And Serach has a beautiful voice. And before the news is given by the brothers that Joseph is still alive, she is singing, she is playing the harp, she is setting a mood, she's getting him calm. And as she's singing, she is alluding to the fact that his son Joseph is still alive. And she doesn't exactly say it, but she's giving enough clues in as calming and settling way as possible that the reality he believes in has been overturned, and there's great news a-coming. And that credit is given to Serach. They told him, but she, with her harp and her beautiful voice and melodies and subtle words, she is the one that set the stage. According to the rabbis, she entered the Garden of Eden alive. Alive. And she has a very, very special role in other episodes that hopefully we'll get to. This is Serach, the daughter of Asher. A very, very special woman, young lady, became a woman. They say she lived for hundreds and hundreds of years, and she walked into the Garden of Eden alive. Thank you for not asking me exactly what that means. But what does it say? It says everything you need to know about Serach and how God valued what she did and what she was going to do again in the future. She kind of pops up here and there again and again. Dear friends, let's look at the very last notation here. And again, I so appreciate your being here at Israel 365. It's one of my greatest pleasures of the week is to be teaching this group. And I'm so glad that you're here and that you keep coming. Genesis 47:27, very last verse of the portion of Vayigash. Last verse. 47:27. And Israel dwelt in the land of Egypt, in the land of Goshen, and they acquired property in it, and they were prolific and multiplied greatly. Wow. Acquired. Hebrew word vayachzu. Vayachzu. And achuzah is like an inheritance. It's something you acquire. Achuzah. Achuz is also like a part or a fraction of a percent. If somebody says mea achuz, that means 100%. It's a way of saying, oh, so did you believe that the guy in the grocery store that they don't have any more cheese? Mea achuz, 100%. I totally believe that, sure. If he says it, mea achuz, 100%. Of course, I believe him that he's right, of course. Achuz, achuzah, property. Le'echoz means to grab, to hold something tightly. So here again, there's a simple level and there's a deeper level. And with this, we will end, my dear friends. On a simple level, they were living in a part of Egypt called Goshen, which was reserved for Jacob and his family and eventually the Jewish people. Right before they were exiting and left Egypt, they left the area called Goshen. Goshen. So what happened? Well, on a simple level, they're in Goshen and they acquire property in Goshen. How long do you want to live in rented property if you can afford something that you can buy and it's yours and you have equity? So on a simple level, they acquired property in Goshen. Say the commentators, they no longer thought of themselves as aliens in Goshen who were there for a short period, but rather they saw themselves as permanent residents. They're ready to settle, not just walking through Goshen. We're ready to buy in Goshen, and that's what it says. And they acquired property in it. Here comes the deeper level. The deeper level says they didn't just grasp the land, to acquire, to hold tightly. They didn't just grasp the land. Here's the deeper part. They were grasped by the land. They were grasped by the land. They were grasped by the Egyptian culture, the Egyptian lifestyle. And when they did get grasped by Egypt, they had begun their slide into assimilation. So, on a simple level, they acquired parts of Egypt. On a deeper level, parts of Egypt acquired, grasped, took hold of them. And as it says, they had begun their slide into assimilation. Wow. Every time I read that, I've read that piece many, many times in the Bible that I read, in the commentaries. Every time I read that, I get goosebumps because I know what happens when people of any religion start to feel grasped by another religion, another way of life, another set of morals and values and ethics. And when it happens to the Jewish people, that we have such a rich tradition, and Jewish people will become grabbed by another kind of a lifestyle, I choke up. I choke up from sadness. And, well, maybe we can talk about that some other time. Dear friends, thank you so much for joining us here today at Israel 365. Thank you, Yoni, for all the wonderful magic and the tricks that you do to enhance our study and our learning each and every time we get together. Thank you, dear friends, for those of you who are going to be celebrating Christmas. Have a Merry Christmas. Enjoy the camaraderie. It's not the best of times in terms of gathering in large numbers, but wherever you are, with whomever you're with, just enjoy and feel great, great blessings. Dear friends, thank you again for being here today. Shalom, and be well, and stay happy and healthy. Bye-bye, everyone.